just to go to a smaller context to your question, they actually have attacked each other. Israel actually first attacked the Syrian embassy of the consulate of Iran in Syria. So that was actually, by international law, that is an attack on the country. At the same time, then Iran launched a barrage of missiles against Israel. So they have actually attacked each other a couple of times, or at least once in the recent past. So given that context, the scale of it is basically what we think is the majority issue in this case, and the other issue is the timing of it. Timing is more contextual and contextually more important in this case, because the US was actually going through negotiations with the Iranians to actually have a nuclear deal, and Trump had actually given a 60-day ultimatum that within that Iran has to come to an agreement, and Israel actually attacked on the 61st day. So the timing, you understand that. So there was actually inherent, I would say, approval given to this attack that if Iran doesn't come to and play ball with the United States, Israel was basically ready to attack. That's one thing. At the same time, although when you are negotiating diplomatically speaking, unless you have someone who's like Trump, when you negotiate across a table between two countries, the timing is never that stringent the way Trump actually wants to make it happen. Like 60 days means 60 days. You actually go beyond few days. That could have really happened. I don't think Israel really wanted to give Iran the opportunity to actually come to an agreement, diplomatic agreement, and continue with the regime that it has. At the same time, you also need to understand that for Iran to maintain that posture in the Middle East of anti-Israel, while the other powers in the Middle East, the Saudi Arabs and UAE and the other countries who are basically a bit more prone to be basically more pro-Israel, or at least be more amicable with them, while completely becoming apathetic about the Palestinian cause, they're actually moving towards that already. The kind of deal that they have already done with Trump and the $1 trillion deals and everything, and they have basically kept silent. Apart from a lot of narratives, they have not done much against Israel in terms of the Palestinian issue that's going on, the genocide that's going on, right? So based on that, having Israel come on the same terms and the same level with the other Middle East countries in terms of a good relationship with the United States, I don't think Israel was ready to have that. So I think what the reason for them to agree to attack right now is the mere fact that rather than trying to think of Iran to actually come to certain terms, certain agreements with the United States, and allow them to actually maintain the status quo of their regional power, regional influence, and continue with this regime that they have in Iran, which is basically quite anti-Israel, having that risk continue while the way Israel has been conducting itself in the Middle East, the genocide, the Jordanian war, the attacks on Syria, the occupation of Syria right now. So they are basically expanding quite a bit, right? Based on that, for them to actually continue with the fact that there's a power which might have a nuclear weapon or actually have a military might that may be able to attack Israel sometime or the other, they really can't have that, because they are already on the expansion spree. They are already going for the greater Israel objective. So while they're doing that, having an irritant like Iran, and then again for Iran to actually come to certain terms with the United States, the main backer of the Israel, they really don't want that. So that's why I think the timing was more crucial here. Next 48 hours, I think Iran has already retaliated. Iran has already sent about 100 drones towards Israel, and let's see how they basically that attack pans out. Of course, Israel is already ready, that I'm sure that given the past experience, and I think that was their testing ground with they attacking the Syrian consulate of Iranian consulate, and then seeing a barrage of missiles coming onto their turf. I think they actually tested the ground and how much Iran could actually retaliate. How far will Iran go? I think that's what the testing ground. They have understood that Iran will not, for the time being, go beyond throwing a lot of missiles towards Israel. And given the support that Israel has from United States and UK and France or all the Western countries, for them to actually be able to throw out those missiles in the air is quite easier now. They have that capacity now. They have built that capacity. So for Iran to actually go beyond a missile attack, basically go for a ground offensive, and it doesn't have the territory even, because the adjacent countries are not going to allow Iran to actually go beyond that. So because they are also quite against Iran in terms of the Middle Eastern regional polarities that we have. So based on that, Iran will actually retaliate, but then again, given Netanyahu's words and the way that he has been going on in his crazy spree about whatever he says he's going to do, I think we will see more attacks by Israel on Iran in the coming days to ensure that Iran basically becomes either completely subservient to the way Trump wants the nuclear deal to happen, or there is an escalation of the entire conflict where Iran will be completely isolated, not only because of the US and Israeli coalition, but also the fact that the adjacent countries around Iran, the other Middle Eastern countries, they are not going to support Iran in that particular context. That's the issue we are going to see.
So it seems that the situation
will escalate. Yes, will escalate.
Going
bad to worse. Yes. Iraq's attacks or Iraq's retaliation will not be more than basically mere token attacks. In those attacks, Hezbollah and the other proxy the groups that Iran has that they fund, they might be able to carry out some attacks against Israel, but the scale and the scope of it will not be that wide. Houthis might have a different role to play in the Strait of Hormuz, basically creating a lot of blockades for the trades and the ships that are going to go across that particular part of the sea. So Houthis actually that will be interesting to see what the part that actually Houthis play in this particular context. But then again, US has been bombing them for quite some time now. So again, I'm sure that if Houthis actually do retaliate in the Strait of Hormuz, US, although it's saying that it's not going to come and join Israel in this attack, but it's going to supply the weapons. It's not going to stop that, right? So whenever if Israel is going to attack Iran, US will not support that attack. But when Iran is going to attack Israel, US will come and defend that. So this is a very contradictory and very, I would say, this is a duplicity that US has been always going on with. That's the best word I can find in terms of trying to say something about a country like that. But this is just hypocritical of the country, which basically talks about a lot of human rights and international law. So basically that's what it's going to do. But it has been bombing Houthis for quite some time right now. So what's going to happen is, if the Houthis actually do start blockading the Strait of Hormuz, I think US will actually start attacking the Houthis, not in the name of supporting Israel in terms of attacking Iran, but also basically in terms of keeping the international trade free and fair. That's what they're going to do. Iran is isolated. For them to respond to anything right now, this is basically, we are asking someone who's basically has his backs to the wall right now. However they respond, they have no support in the region. They have no one to actually come for their aid. Right now, what we are going to see is the similar kind of attacks that we saw with Libya. Israel is going to continue making air raids towards Iran. Iran will try to do the same, but when they do that, the US, UK, they will actually come to the aid of Israel to basically for the defense of Israel, but not for the attack to Iran. When that happens, Iran will try to retaliate. They will try to basically give a similar kind of counter attack to Israel, but their counter attacks will actually be thwarted. It will not be as effective as Israel's would be. Well, first of all, according to international law, according to nuclear treaties that we have in this global or in this world order right now, at least under the UN system, nation-state system, even, you are not supposed to attack the nuclear power stations or the installations. The IEA authorities have already mentioned that, but Israel has already done that. So, and again, according to Israel, Iran has been like 5 months away from creating a nuclear weapon for the last 30 years. They still have a nuclear weapon, and their diplomacy and their foreign relations and their foreign policy and international domestic policy doesn't really dictate that they want to actually have nuclear weapons. They have never actually done that. So for them to actually come to an agreement that, okay, fine, we are going to have a nuclear weapon and then attack Israel, I don't think Iran will ever go for that. Even if they do, their facilities and capacities have already been thwarted. And even if they try to do that in this particular context right now, in this small amount of time, the way Israel is going to start barraging with them with airstrikes, I don't think they will be able to get that through. So in terms of nuclear weapons, there is no concern from the side of Iran. What the concern is, if the nuclear facilities are attacked the way Israel continues to attack them, there will be an environmental hazard, which might not only affect Iran and Iranian people, but also the countries that are basically adjacent to Iran, Iraq or the other countries. So that's where the main concern is. That's where the other countries who will not support Iran, but actually will come to the aid of Iran in the terms of whatever you're doing, don't attack the nuclear facilities, because that also creates risks for us and security concerns for us. That's where they might come in. Apart from that, I don't think no one is going to come forward to support Iran. The way I think it is going to play out is the polarization that we have, where we see Russia, China basically supporting Iran on a certain number of terms, and the other polarization is the United States and the other countries. If Russia and China see that an attack on Iran is going to create disturbance in the supply of oil and natural resources towards China and Russia, which comes through Iran, if that's when it happens, only then they're going to become more vocal and more action oriented rather than just be narrative oriented in terms of the UN system. For now, what I see is that Russia and China are not going to come to the aid of Iran, at least in terms of physical resources. They might supply it with weapons. Again, the way Israel is going to be supplied by weapons by United States, same way Russia and China might give weapons to Iran to basically fight the war. But to actually come to its aid, the way US would come to the aid of Israel or the UK would come to the aid of Israel, I don't think they're going to do that. They will consider doing that only when they see that the resources that they are supposed to get from Iran in terms of oil and all the natural resources, if those supply chains are basically blocked, only then they might come to a certain agreement that we need to make and we need to actually implement an action right now to ensure that our supply is actually not disturbed. Before that, I don't think Russia and China are going to play a role, an active role in fact. Our expatriate community, which basically works in the Middle East, for them it's going to create some difficult choices and difficulties in the challenges in terms of their lifestyle there. That might impact their remittances, but that's a far-fetched idea right now because the other countries are still quite stable in terms of considering what Iran is going through right now. Oil prices, already 8% oil price have increased according to the international reports that I saw. So that's going to create an inflationary impact on us. Trade, if Strait of Hormuz is basically blocked, it's going to have another additional inflationary and trade issues, trade inflations in terms of Bangladesh that we basically deal with in that particular area. Flights have been cancelled, rerouting have been happening in the entire airline industry. That's going to increase the airfares for Bangladesh. That's basically another additional cost to us. So there is an inflationary and financial cost to us in terms of the impact that's happening in the Middle East. Of course, there's also the mere fact that although Iran is a Shia country and we are a Muslim Sunni country, but when it comes to Israel, we are still basically a bit more pro-Iran than going for the Shia-Sunni divide. So internally, domestically, we might see a flare-up of antagonism and aggression, or even aggravation against in terms of narrative. I wouldn't say people are going to start attacking, but there will be protests. There will be basically protesting narratives coming out from religious groups, particular quarters. That's what we're going to see.
For more updates, follow us on Facebook, subscribe our YouTube channel, get the latest update on www.daily-sun.com.